Well, now we're going to look at a very important point, which is the reorder point. It's the optimization of inventory management. What does it mean? The reorder point is the minimum inventory level that indicates when to place a new order. It's crucial to avoid stockouts and lost sales. Okay? Let's go to the next slide. What should we take into account for this? For this, you need to consider three key factors in the reorder point. First, safety stock is the extra amount to handle unforeseen events, for example, like a car's fuel reserve. Point 2, another key factor, is product demand, the average daily sales quantity. That's the basis for covering the period of the lead time. Do you understand? In other words, we need to know the daily product demand, how much is consumed per day. And the third point, the third important factor, is the delivery time. It's the number of days from when the order is placed until the order is received. Alright, let's move on to the next slide, which presents the essential formula. What is the formula used for the reorder point? It's the demand during the lead time, which is the daily demand multiplied by the lead time. It's essentially how much we typically consume, or perhaps sell, or even produce on a daily basis, and this is then multiplied by the crucial lead time. The next point is safety stock, which is the extra amount for unforeseen events. And the last point, it's the sum of the two, which is precisely the reorder point. That is the sum of the demand plus the safety stock. Alright, now let's go through a very basic example of a pharmacy, for instance, where we have the daily sales. And that pharmacy sells 50 bottles. The lead time for those bottles is 10 days. The safety stock is 200 bottles. And we want to determine what the reorder point is. What is the reorder point? It's the daily sales, the 50 bottles, multiplied by the lead time. The lead time is 10 days. So to determine the total, we simply multiply the daily sales amount, which is 50, by the total number of days, which is 10 days. That's 500 bottles, plus the safety stock, which is 200. So the reorder point is 700 bottles. What does that mean? It's the demand plus the safety stock. Is that clear? The safety stock. Here we can see it in this very simple graph. I've also explained this in the MRP module. Alright, here we have the current stock situation. A safety stock of 200 units is maintained. The lead time, the precise amount of time it takes the supplier to deliver to us, is consistently 10 days. The reorder point is 700 units, right? Which strategically places us in this particular zone. And then, if we want to buy a larger quantity, we'll be in a larger lot. We won't be in this specific zone. That's precisely why I always say, it depends on the strategy you have and the policies of your company. Maybe it's better for you to be in this zone, in the green zone, and not at the reorder point. Maybe you want to always have a maximum lot of 1,000 units because it's an extremely delicate, important material and it's crucial to keep it stocked and avoid problems with production, with the demand that requires us to use that material no matter what. So maybe it's better to reach the maximum lot of 1,000 units and not reach the reorder point. In this example, I'm explaining what the reorder point is. You have to evaluate which stage you want to be in. Do you want to be in this zone, zone A? You can see it in the other videos where I've shown you the Pareto method, the ABC method, which is zone A, which is the most optimal part, we could say. Zone B would be this particular yellow colored area, and zone C, which is essentially the crucial safety stock, is also clearly visible. Alright, so in the exercise we mentioned what is the daily consumption demand. It's 50 units. 50 units. The supplier's delivery lead time is 10 days. So we have 500 bottles, which is the point. Well, I was going to say error point, but it's the demand we have over 10 days. 500 bottles. All right, we sell 500 per day over 10 days, that's 500 bottles. The safety stock, 200 bottles. Why 200 bottles? Here in this example, because later you might ask me, how did you calculate 200 bottles? Because the supplier doesn't deliver in 10 days. And what does that mean? There are always unforeseen events. Actually, we know this supplier and they say, no, yes, Pablo, we'll deliver in 10 days. And how long does it actually take them to deliver? In reality, they're delivering in 14 days. Every time we buy and send them the purchase order, right? How long does it take for us to receive it? Not in 10 days, in 14. So the difference between 14 and 10 days, he theoretically says he'll deliver in 10 days, but he's actually delivering in 14. What usually happens? What's the difference? 4 days. So those are the unforeseen events. It's precisely about having a safety margin to cover yourself just in case. Like in this case. And for one reason or another, the supplier always says, oh, Pablo, I'm sorry, I have a problem with production. The weather is bad. I can't deliver it now. I couldn't find a designated driver. The truck isn't available. So that unforeseen event changed the delivery time from 10 days to 14 days. The difference is 4. So 4 days times 50 is the daily demand. The unforeseen event we need to account for is 200 units. That is to say, the necessary safety stock needs to be precisely 200 units. You meticulously calculate this crucial safety stock based on how critically important that specific material truly is. Here, I'm giving you the example of an unforeseen event with that supplier. But it could be something strategic. Maybe you have a strategic reason with that material, and perhaps you don't want to keep 200 units, you prefer to have 400 to be sure. So you would have a safety stock here, right in the middle. But what happens is, by having safety stock, you have a higher inventory. Be careful with that. That depends on your policy, the one your company uses. I have materials that are in the green zone for which I buy the minimum lot. This is the reorder point of 700 units. For example, in this case, reorder point is 500 units plus 200 units of safety stock, so 700. I have some here. I haven't had any below the reorder point. If not, what I do, which you'll see later in another tutorials, which is already just in time, meaning that it's convenient if the supplier can coordinate our stock. That is, because sometimes the supplier delivers in 1 day. If the supplier delivers in 1 day, you are going to calculate the daily demand, the safety stock, make a phone call, send a purchase order, and you know you'll have it the next day. So the supplier holds the stock, not you. That's why, I repeat, it depends on the material. But the moral of all this is that 80% of companies work with reorder points and safety stock, which is exactly this. In my company, I manage around 10,000 materials of raw materials from different components. 80% are here at reorder points. The rest depends. If it's hardware, I prefer that the supplier manages our stock. And in some cases, I prefer to have the maximum lot size because we understand that this material is critical for the company's operations. Alright, I hope this is clear. This concept is very important because by understanding what daily demand is, you need to know your daily demand. You have to know it. You really need to know how much is consumed, or it depends on the activity, whether you are selling, producing, whatever the company's activity is. But you have to know what the daily demand is. Once you know the daily demand and the supplier's lead time, that's it. That's your reorder point after accounting for safety stock. I'll say it again. It depends. If there are unforeseen events, maybe you want to have a very high safety stock, maybe around here, maybe you want to have 500 units. I don't know. I'm not really a fan of that because then we could end up with overstock. The goods could get damaged. It's tied up capital. Then, when you look at the indicators, you won't get a good result because you have immobilized capital, there's no turnover rate. Honestly, for me, I think it should only be done with certain materials that are critical. What are critical materials? In your company, I don't think you have more than 20. It depends on the business, I know, but I get the feeling that most of them aren't. You can count them on your fingers and toes. I don't think you have more than 20.